If you can identify these two things in advance, you're likely to make more money from the markets. One is bearish divergence, and second is something called a pattern reversal signal. We're going to do an update on Quant, which has been pretty much textbook from our last video 3 weeks ago, and it's hit that price level. But again, bearish divergence and pattern reversal signals, we're going to dive straight into. If you like today's content, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Let's dive straight into Quant. Now with Quant, we did a video around 3 weeks ago. You can see this in the top right hand corner. And the main thing was Quant is likely to fall to $150 and below. And we said that for a particular reason. And it was those two things. The first one was the bearish divergence. So we just go into a live chart of Quant. Bearish divergence is when the momentum is pointing one way and the price is pointing the other way. Therefore, there's a divergence. And that's normally a sign of strength or weakness. Here it's bearish divergence. The reason being is the price has made a higher high, and we said this in the last video 3 weeks ago, but the momentum on the weekly chart has made a lower low in terms of the crossover. In other words, there's a conflict over here. That's normally a good indication that we're probably going to get a movement to the downside, and that's exactly what we got. That's one of the big reasons why we were leaning towards Quant going below $150. By the way, if you want access to this chart, because we're going to do some detailed analysis, you can now get the chart for free. It's in the link below. It's free. You'll get the view. There's a few different charts. I'm going to update Quant today, so I'll save it. So everything that we cover today, you can get access to. So now let's go into a daily chart with Quant, because there was a couple of things. The second thing that we said, so we saw the bearish divergence. This is what we said in the last video. And what we said, just to do a quick update, was we clearly had a 5-wave move to the upside. We're not sure at this point if it's a wave 1 or wave A. Now, when I'm talking about wave 1s and wave A's, markets tend to move in 5s and 3s. And this can tell us the buying and selling behavior. It's called Elliott wave theory. And it's really powerful, especially with crypto. So when we say 1 or A, it's basically just saying there's an impulse move to the upside. We expect a correction, which we got. 2 or B, wave 2 or B's, they look the same. And we said this move to the upside is either going to be a wave 3 or a wave C. Now, if it's a wave 3, there'll be a continuation. And if it's a wave C, there'll be a movement to the downside. But the first part, we covered that bearish divergence. Remember? That gave us a massive clue that we're likely to get a big move to the downside. And that's exactly what we got. So that's where we're going to go for an update today. So I'm a big fan of something called pattern reversal signals. It's where the market tells us how the crowd is feeling. And when the price does something called an overlap. So this is the peak over here. The closing price is over here. This is what this black line is. And if the price goes in and closes into this range, that's called a pattern reversal signal. It's a sign of weakness, and it indicates to us that this high is likely, very likely, to hold. And we should only really be looking for further short trade opportunities in the macro picture, in terms of the bigger picture. But I'm going to do a bit more detail now, because there's a few very important things happening right now with Quant. One is we've got the pattern reversal signal. So again, betting on the downside. But there's two other factors I want to just kind of bring to your attention. But just go back to the weekly chart and we open it up. Where is the weekly momentum right now? The blue and the red line. Well, it's in the oversold zone. And what that basically means, because it can be a really helpful indicator to us. The last time it was in this zone and it crossed over, we had a low. The last time it was in this zone over here, it crossed over and we had a low. So down here, this indicates to us, it gives us a clue, it gives us a heads up to say, hey guys, just be aware that Quant might be making a local low and it might last for a few weeks. So just be on high alert. So when we look on the daily chart, there's going to be a few nuances that we can really use to our advantage. Say how much further to the downside is Quant likely to go before we see a bottom that's probably going to last for a few weeks. And what is that bottom going to look like in terms of the movement to the upside? Because really, I like to keep things really simple. Is the market impulsive or is it corrective? Is it making aggressive moves or is it kind of undecided moves? That's what I mean by impulsive and corrective. By the way, guys, if you want to learn a bit more about my style of trading, I've been trading for 4 years now. 4 Secrets masterclass is in the link below. It's just massive value. So some of the language I'm using, I upskill you in the masterclass itself. It's free. Check it out. I think you'll get massive value from it. So now let's just go into the daily chart again. So what I want you to look at is this part. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to answer it. Do you notice any particular pattern from this point over here, this point, and this point, and what do you expect to happen next? Well, remember what I said, markets tend to move in 5s and 3s, and this is quite aggressive to the downside. So to me, it looks like it's done the initial move down. We saw that, some type of correction, pretty aggressive move down. It looks like it's doing some type of correction, and then we're probably going to get one more leg down. So it looks like a 5-wave structure is unfolding. So we can use this information. So let's just update this drawing over here. We go 1, 2. Looks like a wave 3. Well, I mean, we could argue that this looks like potentially a wave 3, 4, and a 5, or the 4 is still forming. So we're gonna look at that in a bit more detail in just a second. I would more lean like this and to like this. The reason being is the weekly momentum is actually still bearish, even though it's in that lower zone. So it tells us that we're next to a low. I'm gonna bring up a momentum indicator on this time frame on the daily chart, and this can be quite helpful. It can be quite helpful, and it just shows us that the momentum is in this region over here, and it indicates we're probably going to get one more low. And if we do, that will complete a nice 5-wave structure. So I will be on high alert with Quant that the downside, if you're shorting this at the moment, the downside is probably going to be limited, and we can project. We're probably going to see one more move to the downside, because this, to me, there's a couple of different wave counts. I won't get too detailed. It could even be an A, B, C of a wave 4 over here. Again, the main thing is that we're probably going to get one more move to the downside. Momentum, when it goes into this zone over here, just be on high alert. So last but not least, what's likely to occur next if we get this movement to the downside? Well, again, taking the weekly momentum into account, what we saw earlier, what will typically occur, because this movement to the downside is relatively aggressive and impulsive to the downside, again, this part is yet to be confirmed, what will typically occur is some type of A, B, C correction, where this high should not get exceeded. Now, it can get exceeded, but the probability states that it won't, mainly because of the pattern position. We've got this price overlap that we spoke about earlier. We've got the weekly momentum that has done a bearish divergence, and there's a couple of other factors as well. So that's looking quite healthy. So let's just summarize with Quant. Be on high alert. Downside is limited. We're probably going to get one more leg down. And then, because of this 5-wave structure, if it unfolds like this, because it could potentially be ended already, we're probably going to get a movement to the upside lasting for maybe 1 or 2 weeks, but then we'll probably get a continuation thereafter to the downside. So there you have it. That's Quant. So we covered 2 things today: a bearish divergence when the price is going higher and the momentum's going lower. And second was that pattern reversal signal, the price overlap that we saw earlier into the previous wave structure. That's a sign of weakness, and that would normally indicate a continuation to the downside. So if you like today's video, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Let's finish with a quote. I normally read one from my book, but I want to really emphasize one today, which is one of my favorites. The trend is your friend. Ride it until its end, until it reaches its bend. Now, Quant looks like it's coming towards an end of a local trend, an intermediate trend. So we want to ride it until its end, and then let the price tell us when it reverses. And then there'll be some long opportunities, or just stand aside. And then I would wait for a correction to complete and then a further move to the downside. So bearish divergence, put that into your arsenal as a tool. And then pattern reversal signals on a macro, intermediate, but also on a micro time frame can be incredibly powerful.